Hey Adventurers, so today is going to be another book review. This is going to be for The Devil in the White City by Erik Larson. And this is a review that I'm very excited to do because this is, I'll spoil it right out of the bat. This is probably my favorite book that I've read this year. And so, if not my favorite, it's top three. There's a couple others that are contenders up there, but this one was right there with some of the best books that I've ever read, as well as some of the best books that I read this year. So let's see. Of course, this is a nonfiction. It's a history. It's American history is really what it is. It takes place in Chicago in 1893. That's what I thought. Yeah, in the 1893 Chicago World's Fair and the World Columbian Expo. So it's kind of a major moment in American history, but not one that's as well known as a lot of other major moments, but one that is arguably had more of an impact than a lot of things. Anyways, I'm going to get into my review here. So I don't really know how to review a nonfiction book. I haven't done it before, and so I really have no idea what I'm doing. But since this book definitely did have an obvious narrative structure to it, I'll just kind of review it like I would any other fiction book, and we'll see if that works out for me. So there was a lot for me to enjoy about this book. For one, I love history. I also love American history, and this really told the story of so many beginnings in culture in American in the West, and just it's kind of an origin story for so much of the things that I don't even think about having origins. It's just like, oh yeah, obviously it started at some point, but no, they started during this 1983 or 1893 World's Fair. And so it's just, yeah. Anyways, I'm going to continue on here. So many things that I kind of mentioned this, but so many things that we'd never think about their origins or wonder when they came about, let alone think that they all happened to come about at the same exact time. And there's example after example that he uses of, oh, this thing started here, oh, this thing started here, and this thing started here, and you're just like, how did everything start at this point in time? Anyways, before I continue on with this review though, I'd just quickly like to say if you're liking what you're seeing from an Erudite adventurer, we'd really appreciate it if you'd like, comment, and subscribe. So this book focuses on really two stories. One is that of a serial killer and just in general a horrible guy as he takes advantage of so many people, and then how he can get away with it, how he sets up a system. He puts a system in place that allows him to get away with everything that he's doing. Thankfully, this section doesn't get too much into like graphic detail most of the time. There are some occasions where it's done in order to better set the scene, better help you to understand what's going on with this, what the context is of this event. And so there is some of that, and Larson does not shy away from detail, but it's not graphic detail specifically in this one half of the storyline, half of the book, I guess. The second story is that of the 1893 Chicago World's Fair, or the World's Columbian Exposition. I already mentioned this as well. It was meant to celebrate the 400th anniversary of Columbus's arrival in the New World, but it goes into the architecture of the fair, it goes into the importance of it, of American pride and ambition, and just so many various aspects and facets of this world, or of this World's Fair, and why it was so important to America and to the world at large at this time. Of the two stories that were being followed in this book, I definitely was more interested and engaged with the World's Fair storyline, but that's not to say that the other storyline was bad. It just I'm not that big into the true crime or anything like that, and so it was kind of just, I'm here for the story, and that's part of the story that's woven into it. And because it does factor so much into the World's Fair, it kind of makes sense for it to be there, for the story to be told as well. And so on one hand, I liked the White City storyline better, but on the other hand, the Devil storyline didn't really bother me at all either. So I was more interested in the White City storyline, the fair storyline, the whatever you want to call that. I'm calling it the White City because we've got the Devil in the White City, and so it's kind of the two sides of the story, and that's how my brain's processing it. So I'm just calling it White City storyline at the moment. But I was more interested in the fair storyline and everything that went into that and came from it. The many inventions, including attempting to find a way to rival and indeed outshine the Eiffel Tower from the previous World's Fair, which was, I don't know, 7-10 years earlier or something like that. I don't remember the exact details. It's been a while since I've read this book at this point. There's a whole bunch of that side of thing that I just really enjoyed seeing. The details of the logistics behind building this fair, and including the timeline that they had to work with in order to make things work out in time, be able to open on time and all that kind of stuff, and the number of times that things failed on them as they had to just quickly turn around and try to find a way to fix it all of it culminating in the fact that they managed to pull off the World's Fair on time. It's kind of just a really incredible tale of American ingenuity, grit to some degree, and just not being willing to give up even though they have every right to at this point. So there's a whole lot of really cool stuff in this book besides just the story itself. The amount of detail and research that Larson put into this story is beyond impressive. I loved this book so much, and I can't think of a historical book that I've been more invested in. Of course, I haven't read a ton of historical books that are nonfiction or anything like that outside of my schooling, whether it was my primary schooling or college or anything like that. I haven't read a ton outside of that, and so this is kind of the first one that I've come into and just been blown away with the quality of this writing. So as I already mentioned, this is one of my top 3 books of the year for sure, maybe my favorite one. The other 2 are completely different genres, so I can't say that they would be my favorite. Or that one could win out over the other one, but I did really love this one. This review has just barely scratched the surface of my thoughts on this book and how impressed I was by it. It does, again, it seems a lot like a gush glowing review type thing, but I don't hate that because that's kind of, this channel is kind of what are my experiences as I'm reading books, as I'm going through and exploring different types of literature and stuff like that. All that plus just the amount that I learned from this book, it can't not be something that I loved reading and that I had a really good time with. So anyways, that is my review for The Devil in the White City by Erik Larson. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite adventure. We post videos every Monday and Thursday, as well as several other days at the moment. We will see you guys again soon. Stay warm.